What is going on, everybody? I am Guns, and today we are going to talk about creating a character in an RP environment. This is going to be a step-by-step guide of how you develop a character's personality, traits, their looks, their male, female, nationality, things like that, and the best ways to do it to help suit you in terms of playing that character. In essence, we're going to make it easy for you to find a character that you can understand and play to a very high level of roleplay without having a ton of experience as a role player. Now, I personally have roleplayed since about the Arma 2 days on Silver Lake. I also play RP during Arma 3 on the island quite a bit, and then obviously most notably and most recently I've roleplayed on 5M or GTA RP for about the last year. I started off with State of Emergency right around the time that it started to get popular. In total, I have about 4 or 5 years of role-playing experience. Not to mention, I also do a lot of DMing for people in campaigns, and I try to roleplay characters and personalities out there as much as possible, and I'll often spend a lot of time developing personalities and traits, just like I would for an RP character. The difference here, and you can take this and apply this to something like DMing, dungeon mastering, or actually playing a character inside a game of D&D if you wanted to. But the difference here is that you're portraying this character in an online setting in Grand Theft Auto. So your actions also have to match up of what you're able to do throughout the game. And we'll get into more of that, like what your character actually does and how they do it towards the end of the video. So let's start out with the number one thing you should focus on when creating a new character, and that is personality. Above all else, you should first create your character's personality. Don't think of a name, don't think of gender, don't think of nationality, race, color, anything like that. Personality is the key to it. Why? Well, if you're an experienced role player, there's a lot of personalities you can fit into because you're used to changing how you act as a person. And the funny thing is, if you role play a lot, some of the things that you make your character do will start rubbing off on what you do on a daily basis. And I'll show you examples of that for myself later on, and you have to walk yourself backwards out of this sometimes. It can be pretty entertaining. So for a new role player, a key to the personality of your character is take a personality trait that you have, whether it's positive or negative, and this does mean that you have to accept the negative personality traits that you have because everybody does have them. But look at yourself and take a positive or negative personality trait and amplify it. Amplify it massively. Let me give you a good example here. My newest character, Elliot Sermon, is a character that focuses on some of my more self-centered narcissistic tendencies, who's generally an asshole. Occasionally that does come out of me. Occasionally I'm just unnecessarily an asshole to people. I'll tell them things that are wrong with themselves for no reason. I tend to be, on average, pretty self-centered, thinking about myself first, and I can be a little narcissistic from time to time. I was a lot worse when I was younger. I've gotten a lot better with that as I've gotten older, I think. I hope. But Elliot Sermon takes those traits of the self-centeredness, narcissistic personalities that's often unnecessarily an asshole to people, and he amplifies that out of me. What he also does is I change how I talk my voice, how I talk in my voice, to sound more condescending, like I'm always talking down to whoever I'm talking to, and I space my words out a little bit more, as if, not that I'm processing it, but people need time to understand what I'm saying because it's just too complex for them. And all of those traits of my character, Elliot, branch out from the narcissistic, self-centered tendencies. So, Elliot deepens his voice just a little bit, and he talks like this, as if you need time to understand the words that are coming out of my mouth. And I enunciate specific words that I'm saying to you to make sure that you're understanding that particular point that I'm trying to get across to you, just to make sure we're all on the same page here. So Elliot's not a really huge voice change for me. He's just slightly deeper and a little bit more spaced out with his voice. But that comes from the personality traits of, like I said again, the narcissistic, self-centered tendencies. And it can be any personality trait that you have. If you're shy, you can take a shy character and you can make a wonderful roleplay character out of those. One of the most recent things I've seen out of a shy character is Classypax's newest serial killer character, who does photography. Extremely shy, mildly mannered, decently spoken, quiet person. Very shy personality in general, but he's super fucking creepy, and it's just done so perfectly.
I ask if the character you're playing is based on yourself. Oh, okay. Well, hold on. God damn it. Let's go get her hair done. Is your friend following us?
Yeah, she's following. That's fine.
She's coming for the photo shoot?
I guess, Sophia, you can go to that.
Oh, guess not.
Yeah, I told her she got another job. It's fine.
So I encourage you, if you want to like try to figure out how to play a shy character, look at how Classypax is doing it at the moment. And this was a character he invented. I was watching him do it literally just yesterday, Saturday, March 17th of 2018. So definitely look at some of those VODs in regards to a more shy character. If you want a more eccentric, flamboyant character, because that's a part of your personality, look at Milton T. Pike and Kiki Chanel. He does a wonderful job of bringing out those kind of more flamboyant, more eccentric parts of your personality and emphasizing them to a degree that's just like scary ludicrous. He also has that side effect of the Kiki Chanel anger, where he can get unnecessarily angry sometimes. And those are all, like, you see Milton Pike rage sometimes over silly things. Those are all part of Milton T. Pike's personality. He knows that, and he's personified that into his character of Kiki Chanel. So, once you have a personality trait that is part of yourself into this character, it's going to make personifying this character easier for you, because it's already part of yourself. You already kind of know how to do it. The next thing you want to move on to and decide what is going to be specific about your character is going to be the culture of the character. Now, a culture of a character is very, very important, and again, it helps if you pick a culture that you're familiar with. We are not indigenous to just one type of culture. Even if you're raised in the middle of bumfuck Egypt in the backwoods of West Virginia, you're not inundated with just one culture. The thing about culture in the United States and the world particularly is that we can be exposed to any culture nowadays through all different types of mass media, internet, TV, marketing. But you want to pick a culture that you have spent a lot of time in. So myself, I've spent a ton of time in the South. I was born in the South. I was born in Louisiana. I lived a huge chunk of my life in Kentucky, and I've been to places quite frequently like Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, and I've been to Mississippi a few times. Been to Florida a lot too, to give you kind of like a different idea of what else the South brings, because Florida is kind of its own interpretation of the South in a little bit more twisted way. I've also spent huge majorities of my life, though, in big cities. And one of the key reasons for making Elliot Sermon more of a city person is because of how I wanted to fit him into the roleplay of a lawyer. Now, I chose lawyer as a profession for Elliot Sermon as the thing he's going to do from day to day for a couple of reasons. One, my family is inundated with state police, federal marshals, federal transportations. My great-grandfather was sheriff of a city for quite some time, for almost 10 years there. And so my entire family is very heavily inundated with law force. And because of that, we have a lot of friends that are lawyers, that are prosecutors, that are judges, that are court marshals, that we spend a lot of time inundated and associated with law enforcement type figures, including those that convict, those that fight against, and everything else like that. So when creating Elliot's sermon, that's why I specifically focused in on a city person that's more of a law enforcement type character, and I kind of honed in on that lawyer sector because it's something I've been exposed to, and I kind of see how they act in just a normal setting and also in a courtroom setting. I've seen enough lawyers that I know what kind of personality traits tend to proceed to seep out of them. However, my other character, Gunny, is extremely redneck. I mean, the accent is... let's see. The accent is so thick on Gunny that he can talk to you about all kinds of things depending on where they come from. If we're talking out in Sandy Shores where he grew up, you would not believe the things that he is saying. It's unbelievable that he's been exposed to since he was a child. So that's kind of the direction that Gunny Robinson, my more redneck character, steers. He's a very criminal-oriented character on that side of things. So once you have the personality and the culture of the character decided, and the culture can also kind of reference in part of nationality, but once you've got those two things decided, then you're going to want to focus on the nationality of it. Now, the nationality can bring through a lot of different things. I know a lot of people that like to play kind of stereotypical roles like an Indian taxi driver or a gun-running Russian. I actually did one of those characters when I first started RPing on SOE, Vlad Kononishkikov. In regards to the nationality, don't be afraid to try to do a voice. Now, you may not be good at it. It may be really offensive to some people, but you can always practice it. You can always get better at it. And remember, you're in here for the sake of the RP, for the sake of the interactions. This isn't about how good or bad your voice is at something. And you can always do a unique kind of accent, one that sort of sounds like it comes from an area, but it doesn't really come from that kind of area. It's just kind of like a modification of it, like their own unique accent, and that's actually far more believable than just like a stereotypical type of Boston accent or a stereotypical type of redneck accent, because everybody's accents are very different. Their voices are very different. They pick up different dialects and different colloquialisms from different types of people in different types of places. So don't be afraid to make a very unique accent out of your voice that you can do very convincingly. It is very, very important, though, when doing a voice for a character, to try not to just sound like yourself. If you look at any of the best RPers, none of them really sound like themselves when they're playing characters. Even if you look at the tonality and what words are used, when you look at Johnny Dazzler versus Thadrius, who plays Johnny Dazzler on Family RP, Johnny Dazzler is a little bit more funny, a little bit more kidding, joke, prank type of personality, but a little bit more serious about the things that he says. Thad's really good at getting a punchline out there and then muting his mic and dying laughing on the other side where you can't hear him, but he can get it out there with a straight-laced voice. So even though Thad doesn't change his voice that much for Johnny Dazzler, he does change his idiosyncrasies of how he talks as Johnny Dazzler.
Parents. Never knew me parents. I be from Jamaica, man.
Well, I mean, my documents here say that you live in Vinewood Hills, sir.
Okay, fine. Yes, I'm from Vinewood Hills, okay? I ran away because they don't get it, okay? Let me go. Some bullshit.
All right, sir. All right. Here's what's gonna happen.
And of course, lastly, the last thing you want to decide after your nationality is your gender, male or female. And listen, even if you're a guy, you can play female characters, and you should not be afraid to play female characters. Let me give you an example of playing a female character.
Hi there, my name is Sandy Shores. I work down at the Vanilla Unicorn. I've been Point Lady for 45 years, and if you come down to me, I can show you some pretty sandy shores and give you a rough ride.
So, Sandy Shores, or her name is Sandy, she was a joke character that I developed while RPing for a little bit, for some laughs and some shits and some giggles. But the point of Sandy that I'm going to use here to demonstrate to you is that Sandy is a female character. She's an old stripper. And because no one really wants to see her strip anymore, she's now an old hooker. And she doesn't have a lot of success with that either. So, even though I'm a guy, and I'm not good at female voices, I can implement a unique idea of a female voice like Sandy onto a character, and she sounds like a 40-year-old smoker. Really gravelly, like constantly chain smoking, while being a prostitute on the street corner. And so that gives a roleplay reason as to why Sandy sounds like that. Now, I don't do Sandy a lot because it's really rough on my voice to do for long periods of time, but you can see how that plays out. So, with all those things established, you can now really start to develop your character. And with the nationality, the culture, the personality, you can really start to develop their voice. Their voice will come from their personality, their culture, and what kind of tics, what kind of habits you want to inundate into them. What kind of hobbies do they do? What kind of things do they love, and what kind of things do they hate? These are all things you want to actually start to develop in your character. You are not going to come out of the gate with these kinds of things for your character. These are things you're going to learn about your character as you go on, where something's mentioned and you're like, ooh, do they like that or not? And that question will be raised and you'll have the time to answer it then. And finally, the last thing you get to decide once you've gone through all this character creation with your character is your character going to be criminally based or not? Now, when I say decide whether your character is criminally based or not, that does not mean that your character will in fact take part in criminal activity. That just means that they're able to. For instance, a photographer like Classypax's character that I've been recently mentioning. Small, Middletown, American type man who does photography inside of Los Santos. Well-mannered, soft-spoken, but maybe he's just a little too polite. This is where the RP of developing a character really starts to take place. If the RP leads to your character to be a criminal, then it leads it there. If your character has predefined circumstances that lead to him being a criminal, like a pothead or a meth head, you don't just want to do the criminal activity out of the gate for the sake of the money. Why does your character do these criminal activities? What's their reasoning? It can be as simple as something like this is all that they know, they were raised for it, or you can be creative and make a backstory for it. But I implore you, in everything that you do, especially with criminal activity, create a backstory for it or something that leads up to it to give your character kind of a reasoning, a solid reasoning, a manifest inside their brain that makes sense to them. No murderer, no drug lord, no mafia boss is a stone cold killer. They don't just constantly do drugs or murder people and act like it isn't wrong. They know that it's wrong, which is why they hide it. They just don't care about the consequences of it. It's why they develop nervous tics or bad habits. They feel like they have a reasoning to do these bad things. It's why a lot of these murderers are psychologically conflicted in really fucked up ways. It's the reason they're too polite, or they're too happy, or they're too hangry all the time, or that they're just too well-mannered or too well-kept. The best, most defining type of characters that you can make as a criminal have a type of psychosis that go with it, and it shows up in a variety of unique, eccentric ways. If you're going to play a criminal character, you want that character to really stand out to people, and you want that experience with that person and your character to be unique. You don't want that person to say, it just felt like another thug with a gun pointing it at me, because at that point, you're no better than the AI down at Grove Street. Now, I can't teach you to write, I can't teach you how to better form these personalities or where to pull things from, but it's always okay to take inspiration from things. Just don't make carbon copies. Always make it unique to yourself, because if you make carbon copies, you're only going to be as effective as the information you know of the copy that you're making. Make it unique to yourself regardless of what you do. And always try to create a background, create reasoning as to why your character's doing what they're doing. I implore you to try to always have a reason for whatever it is that you're doing when it's something that's substantial. I mean, driving to the gas station or whatever, you don't have to worry about that, but when you're talking about character development and unique character things like murdering somebody, robbing, running drugs, being a lawyer, becoming a cop, doing the right thing as opposed to the wrong thing, or the wrong thing as opposed to right. Give your character a reason. Give a reasoning that people can find so that it feels like someone can understand your character and look and say, oh, I understand why they did that. It's still not right, but I understand why they did that. Look at Freddie Price most recently in the murdering of Jack on Family RP. When Freddie Price murdered him, Freddie Price felt that he had a very good reason to murder Jack because of the betrayal against SecuroServe, because of everything that Freddie Price had done to build this system, and Jack had betrayed him, and Jack had been there for such a long time, so he felt like somebody that should have been there from the beginning had gone back on him. Freddie Price felt justified in the murder of Jack. And if you really look at it from a fucked up angle, Freddie Price was justified in murdering Jack. And that is what makes a character good.
It's not over, Freddy.
It's over.
What's
I love you.
over you?
Dad, please.
I love you with all my heart. Know that.
If you truly did, Freddy, you wouldn't do this. You wouldn't have done that to Jeffrey.
I'm protecting my boyo.
Dad.
Dev. Stop it, Dev.
Gone completely mad, Freddy.
Stop it, Dev. You're gonna be all right.
What the hell happened to Jeffrey?
What the hell happened to Jeffrey is a lot better than what's gonna happen to you!
Oh my God, Freddy!
One last piece of advice when creating a character. Don't name them after yourself. Because again, you're going to establish the familiarity with your name with yourself, and you're not going to really create a character out of them. You're just going to create more of yourself. And remember, the point of RP is to explore different avenues and different personalities. What if you were someone else? And if you're naming the character after yourself and you're just going down avenues that seem like yourself, you feel like, yeah, I'll just play myself. You're doing yourself a disservice of how you should approach RP. You're taking away from you. You're missing out if you just follow that road. So last bit of advice, distance yourself from your characters with your name, your voice patterns, hobbies, everything as much as possible, and I guarantee you're going to get a lot more fun out of RP than anything else. Because remember, it is not about winning, it is not about losing, it is about the interactions between these characters. Well, that's about 20 minutes of me ranting about how to make a good character. I tried to structure it as best as I could here with some notes on the side and everything from step by step, and try to give examples along the way, obviously, for you guys, and I hope that it helps you create better characters in the future. If you did enjoy this video, if you feel that you learned anything from it, and if you are going to use this in the future, please leave a like on the video, share it and show it to your friends, put it in your RP discords or on the forums, because when RP gets better for everybody, it makes the quality of all the servers on 5M just generally better, which is the huge RP platform currently. That is going to do it for me. Hope I see you guys out there on 5M making some fun with your new characters. I'm Guns. Have a good one. GG.